Okay, so here we go. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Rodney. Welcome to Shedskin Ideas, where I discuss concept ideas for video games. I discuss mechanics and features and my personal way of how I think how we can make certain anime games flow and work in a game format. In the last video that I had, I was talking about Kaiju 8 and why I believe that's the best anime, recent anime that would make a an amazing video game. And when I was discussing that, I was also comparing it to solo leveling. So, solo leveling is extremely popular, and when the solo leveling game came out, I was really impressed with the graphics, the 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 fluidity, the combat. It was really cool, and there were some sections that I did not like about it, but since I wasn't a part of the project, I don't really know why certain things were the way they were. But what I came up with in my mind, they invested money into aspects of this game that really mattered. Um, so that's why I think there these certain things that I personally criticize were the way they were. And because the anime was so popular, I think that was the main reason why they made the video game. It's almost like, oh, we made a lot of money. What do we do? I guess we'll make a video game. And even though it has a lot of pros to it, I just didn't think it was, I don't know, just there was no heart. It was just a game that was made because it was popular, anime is cool, whatever. And sure, it was cool, but it's just like there could have been more to it, I guess. Um, and at first, really, I didn't think there could be more. I was just kind of like, we're at a dead end here because the way the anime is, um, just the universe of the anime, right, is a certain way, and to convert that in a video game, I would find it really hard. And the reason why I say that is because I personally want to talk about ideas where you get to personalize your own character and you fit in this universe. So, how would you make your own character and live in the solo leveling universe? And it's hard to make your character feel special when the main character is experiencing something that's unique from other hunters in the anime. Because if everyone was to experience the same system that Jinwoo would use, then it's to me it's just lame, really lame. And I couldn't see it being a replayable, unique game that gets you hooked, and takes you away from playing any other game. You know what I mean? That whole com- the competitive the competitiveness that comes from game development. I'm extremely competitive. I think the business world and creative world integrating together is a fascinating relationship. And I've experienced it firsthand where I don't prefer shooting games. Those aren't my favorite games. But whenever I moved in with my real father in Indiana several years back, him and my brother played a lot of Call of Duty. That was their thing. I played a lot of arcade games out by the coast in South Carolina, and I played a lot of old school games that my best friend had. And a lot of those games were more fun. I don't want to say more fun because I do enjoy shooter games now, but more friendly fun, I guess. You know, Sonic the Hedgehog, Pokemon Stadium, Donkey Kong. I mean, even old school games like Duck Hunt. In the arcade, House of the Haunted Dead was my thing. That's a shooter game. Um, but racing games were my absolute favorite. Even whenever I would leave me and my sister would leave my mother to go visit my father because they were divorced, right? He had the PlayStation 2, and we played things like NASCAR, wrestling, Spyro, um, Max Payne was guilty pleasure because my mom was really protective, but also m- more controlling of what kind of material was in or what kind of influences that were around me, right? So whenever I would go to my dad's house, it's pretty much rules were out the door. Um, but I didn't really grow up with this big interest in shooting games until I moved to Indiana several years before the COVID pandemic, and I got really into it. Well, I'm a big Naruto fan. When the um, oh my god, I can't believe I can't think of its name. Um, Shinobi Strikers. I was excited for that personalization and all that, and I got the game. I was disappointed. The game isn't bad. I mentioned this in other videos. It just wasn't the kind of Naruto game that I was expecting and wanting to play. And because it was having its issues in the early releases and the limitations of how I could personalize my character and what I had to do to get new skills was just extremely repetitive and boring for me. Um, I quit playing it and I went back to Call of Duty. You know, um, so just that whole aspect of you play a game and you may be interested in what it is, and then you find out it's just like, you know what? There's these other games that I'm not really a, a big fan of the universe, but the game itself is just much better than this game of whatever niche or um, subject that the game covers, right? And I just find that really fascinating how how someone wants to invest their time when having fun. So with the solo leveling game, I just didn't see it possible, considering that hunters in the game are fixed ranks. If you're a C rank, you're a C rank. And I was working on um, more material for the Kaiju 8 concept game that I had. I wanted to be just give a little more details of how I visualized it, and I'll be doing that after this video. But I uh, I came across something, I don't remember exactly what it was, and something sparked in me, and I was like, you know what? If I want to be a great creator, a great problem solver, someone who's wants to be involved with just innovating the game world, I'm saying that solo leveling is kind of where it's at. That's all it is, and me personally is not what I would want to or it's not a game I would want to invest my time in. But how would I, right? So I started challenging myself, and I just had just a couple minutes really to think about how to make this actually work. How would I make this work? And in the Kaiju 8 concept game that I was thinking of, it takes place before the main character. And I'm just thinking, okay, maybe that's how we need to approach this also. And I was just thinking about the storyline, and it's just like one day people had awakenings and whatever, right? So I was like, okay, that's the beginning. Shit popped off, things changed. So that's how the game should start, right? But the fixed ranks issue, what rank do you become? What kind of class are you? How do we establish that? How do we go forward? How do we how how do you have fun being an E ranker, right? Because you don't want to make a game where you have the same system as the main character. It's to me, yes, it can work. You could do anything. You can make them wear pigtails or with a robot. I don't know. Essentially you program it, you make it in a game. It's possible, but it's just like what does that kind of like say to the audience? And to me, taking that same approach is lame because that's Jin Woo's story. That's his special case where he constantly levels up. But there's something called a reawakening. So that's what I had to work with. So, how do we start a solo leveling game and you create your own character and you go through reawakening processes and how does the game work? So, I've been working on that and I kind of just wrote myself a script here and I plan on reading it to you. It's just easier for me to communicate the clear things, um, or communicate it as clear as possible for y'all. Your time is valuable, and yeah. So I'm just gonna read it and maybe some closing words. But yeah. Welcome to Shedskin Ideas. All right. Imagine a solo leveling game where you don't start as Sung Jin Woo. You don't have the system. You don't have powers. You're just a regular person living in a city with other players, making decisions, and everything you do decides who you become. The problem with solo leveling as a game. In the anime, solo leveling ranks are fixed. If you're C rank, you stay C rank. The only exception, reawakening. But the main character is different. He has the system, he can level up, he can grow endlessly, and that works for a story. But in a game, that breaks everything because if everyone can do that, then no one is special. So instead of copying the anime, I rebuilt the idea. You can still grow, you can still improve, you can still get stronger, and even reawaken, but not the same way. You don't have the system, you live inside one. Your actions are tracked, your habits are measured, your life becomes your progression. Life before power, lobby, and the world. You don't start as a hunter. You start with a life, you choose a career, you enter a world with around maybe 50 to 60 players, and you can free roam with up to 8 friends. You can explore together, train together, or get distracted together, and all that matters. I imagine the game, the beginning of the game to be 50 hours of an evaluation phase. For your first 50 hours of gameplay, not real life time, you're being judged, not just by stats, but by your lifestyle. Do you train? Do you stay disciplined? Do you eat properly? Do you stay consistent or do you get distracted? You can grind it fast or take your time, but those 50 hours define you. Every action has weight. Let me paint a picture. You help someone in the city. That gives you plus 5 support points, plus 5 healer points. You train hard. That gives you plus 5 tank points, 5 frontliner points. You run up a hill. That leans more into endurance and physical roles. You spend time just exploring with friends. Your growth becomes more balanced, less focused. Everything you do has weight. Roll scoring. At the end of those 50 hours, everything is tallied. 180 points for tank, 150 points for frontliner, 90% for healer. You didn't choose that. You built it. Every decision, every habit, every distraction created that result. Awakening and rank. And then you awaken, not into a class, but into a role. And you are received a rank based on how well you lived, not just your stats. Rank versus stats. You can become stronger, faster, more efficient, but rank is different. Rank is your ceiling. Stats are how well you perform within it. The cost of starting strong. Now, here's something important. What happens if you start too strong? If someone comes out of those 50 hours as an S rank, they skip the journey. They skip growth, discovery, progression, curiosity. Instead, they get responsibility. Different players, different experiences. Lower ranked players experience progression, discovery, trial and error, anticipation, but S ranked players, they experience pressure, responsibility, limited growth, and high expectation. Two completely different games. Design decision. And this raises a question. Should players even be able to start at S rank? Or should the system cap you at a lower rank, possibly B rank, or even maybe A? So everyone still has something to chase because the journey is the game. Dungeons and trials. After awakening, you enter dungeons. Most are normal, but hidden in the world are trial dungeons, rare, unpredictable, and different. Trial requirements. You must complete 3 trial dungeons before unlocking your real test. The solo dungeon. Your solo dungeon, you enter alone. No help, no teammates, and the system builds it based on you. Failure builds who you are. You will fail. That is expected. But every enemy you defeat gives you points, and you use those points to improve your stats. So every attempt makes you stronger. The progression loop. You come back stronger, faster, smarter, until eventually you overcome it. Solo completion system. Every time you complete a solo dungeon, which you have to beat 3 special dungeons before you're in your own solo dungeon. Every time you complete a solo dungeon, it counts. 1, 2, 3. And after 5 completions, you unlock something new. Multiple role system. You gain the option to sacrifice stat growth, whether you put points on your speed, your strength, or on to make a skill that you have a little bit stronger. You can sacrifice stat growth for a new role influence. Not early, not freely, earned. So now you can become tank plus frontliner, but not at full power. You've gained versatility, but you lose peak strength. Because without this, everyone would just stack roles and become overpowered. So instead, versatility comes with a cost. S rank endgame and responsibility. When you reach S rank, that's it. No more reawakenings, no higher tier, only refinement, only mastery and responsibility. In solo leveling, if a dungeon isn't clear, it breaks. Monsters enter the world, that pressure becomes part of the game. High ranked players aren't just strong, they're needed. And if players don't handle it, S rank NPCs step in. They save the day, but you lose rewards, experience, and opportunities. The world moves on with or without you. Multiplayer and guilds. You can join guilds, run raids, compete, or cooperate. Even have two guilds in one raid, and your journey continues. This isn't a game where you pick a class. It's a game where your life builds you. Your habits shape you. Your futures grow you. Your choices define you. And when that moment comes, the system doesn't ask who you are, it shows you. A solo leveling game where power isn't given, it's earned. Now, one thing that I want to add to this is that if you are a C ranker and you're building up these points, and then you end up in a solo dungeon, and you have the opportunity to put those points on uh, things like skills or attacks or power, speed, whatever it may be. If you decide to put those points that you've accumulated into earning a new class, similar to how Jin Woo goes from an assassin to a necromancer, right? And as I mentioned, we don't want a C ranker just gaining all them skills, right? We want them to be able to eventually clear the solo dungeon. That's why you get the point system. It's designed to kill you and you will die. It's not supposed to be an easy feat. But when you do clear a solo dungeon, you will rank up, not just get extra speed points and this sign wherever you want. You will rank up just like how Jin Woo did. And that's what I kind of designed or thought of for the reawakening system. It's supposed to be hard, but at random. So you just have to play through, do the best you can, and eventually you come across these more often. This creates replayability, but at the same time, when you lose, you're not just walking out empty handed. I don't want players to be so stressed when they find out, oh snap, they're in a they completed their third trial dungeon and now they're in a solo dungeon by themselves. I don't want that pressure to really be on them. I want them to eventually be able to overcome it with ease. And that's what the assigning the points to the appropriate things. You will experience what you need and what where you lacked or what you were missing out to complete that dungeon. So when you get those opportunities to assign those points, it just increases your chances of beating that dungeon whenever you complete another three trials. Now, when you have your character, what's the difference between a C rank and a B rank? And we'll say both are medics or healers. So the higher rank will have more skills they can use, specialized skills. So there's the full heal, um, whether it's a singular limb, multiple limbs, internal damage, burn damage, just depending on what kind of injury that needs treatment. There's a particular spell that can be used for that. Now, the higher you go up, we'll say A rank, you can do like a full heal, and we'll just say that uses more magic, more this, and but they have more stamina and strength to go on. But since they're S rank, if they're in an S rank dungeon, then they are, they're very valuable, right? So you don't want to lose an S rank medic. So it's still balanced, but if a S ranker was in a B rank gate, it'd be doing pretty fine, right? Um, so we'll say the S rank can learn 100 skills, and A rank can learn 90, and then just keep on trickling down. And you're E rank healer. You only have X amount of skills that you can learn, and they're only a certain strength. And that's really the best you can do. But you can level up those particular skills to be more effective or efficient. Maybe cut the time it takes to heal something, maybe cut the amount of magic that it takes to heal. But for the most part, you will not learn healing skills that are a rank above you. You can only learn your rank skills. Um, what else do I think I need to cover? Now, the dungeon breaks. The reason why I stated that if you don't do the dungeon breaks, that other NPCS rank hunters will clear it is because I didn't want to create um a B rank monster is extremely weak compared to a S rank monster, right? And if a S rank was to be released, it would just destroy the whole block, the whole city, the whole thing would just get all sorts of messed up. And even though that would be a cool feature to have in the game, I think that would add more complications due to the difficulty of that opponent. But if we were to minimize that by, we'll say, having specific districts or combat zones that fit specific type of threats or enemies that do less damage. So there's less environmental changes. Um, and when a break happens, just like how in a dungeon it would have its own combat zone, its own occupied space, that monster would have the same amount of space, but out in the I guess we would call it the real world. To create a S rank monster and to have the same attack patterns or movement, freedom, mindset, consciousness, whatever, would just be a whole lot more work for the developmental team to do if they were to break out. So I needed something to fit that in. So maybe that would even work for A rank. Maybe B rank is would be the highest gate to experience a dungeon break. But what happens is if you don't do a S rank or A rank, you're missing out on opportunities where you can come across those There's moments where they just might be a special dungeon trial. It's originally before I made that, it was if you played those, um, I believe I said 50 hours, 40 or 50 hours of just having no powers, no rank, not becoming a hunter. When you're just out doing whatever in the real world, and then you become a hunter and you become a S rank, then you won't get to experience what the lower ranks get to experience. And I thought that really takes away from the uh, of an experience, not the only experience you can have. If you became a S rank, you would have the responsibility. You have to do the S rank dungeons, right? It's almost an obligation when you're in a guild. So, but I also want players to kind of have freedom to not do something or to do lower ranks if they want. There has to be a cap on how low you can possibly go. But to force players that somehow became S rank hunters to just focus on these particular missions is very heavy, and I think is super. I think it's cool as heck. Um, I personally wouldn't mind it to be a high rank and just have to play. I don't know, just how games have difficulties. Beginner, medium, harder, hardcore, whatever. Like to be at S rank and to just play the the intense battles, right? Just straight up working with a team trying to conquer something. When you die in the game, you just wake up in the hospital. You don't really die. We got to keep the game going, right? Um, if you lose a limb in the game, you wake up with your limbs. It has nothing to do with the special system that Jinwoo was in. It's just you blacked out. You thought you were dead. You didn't really die, but you lost your HP. You're no longer able to uh, fight. You just wake up in a hospital, and simple reasoning would be S rank hunters came to more backup came to assist and were able to get you out there and heal you just in time. Um, So that would be my idea for a solo leveling game, and I would call it similar to the Kaiju 8 Defense Force name. It would be solo leveling hunters. Um, I remember thinking, man, like to be a E ranker while other online players are A rankers, and it just eh, it doesn't make me feel good. It's kind of um, like really dumb. You want people to play with each other, but you also want caps. You don't want S rank hunters taking all the F or S rank hunters to take all care of all the F rank jobs. So but if you have friends that are B rankers and you're a C ranker, and then your other friend is an E ranker, what is the medium in which all of y'all can go together? And and I think that's generally how it needs to be. If the lowest rank can only do that rank and one above, um, maybe one difference, one above, one less. Um, that would be a good rule or formula. But tell me what you think. Do you think that I'm on point with the direction of how a solo leveling game should be? Um, it'd be really cool to play the game, and then all of a sudden, a special feature happens where they're like, "Hey, Jin moves S rank," and then you're just like, "Oh, that's where I'm at in the story." So that's what's really going on right now. That's pretty cool. Similar to how I had the Kaiju 8 game, and it takes place before, and then imagining doing a mission, and then all of a sudden, Habi no Kafka um, just shows up in his kaiju form and just fucks shit up to like witness that as a feature in the game. That would be pretty cool. Um, I believe I covered everything that I thought of. I'm gonna have to review my notes again and see if I missed anything. But I would love to hear from y'all if you had any questions. If you want me to explain something, make a video more in depth on a particular feature or mechanic, just let me know, please. Um, I'm still working on um, communication, com- communicating. So give me the practice. Thank you very much. This is Rodney with Shedskin Ideas. Thank you. Have a good day.